Get it on your phone, Merike.
Yep.
Welcome to Hermit Woods, where there's a story in every bottle. Hello, we are live. It's Monday again, and we're here for our Monday episode of In the Cellar with Ken Hardcastle, winemaker at Hermit Woods Winery in Deli. And we're going to be doing things a little differently today. You can already see there's some differences in the graphics. So we've got some new tools. So I hope you can bear with me as I learn these new tools and we figure out how to use them to all of our advantage. I see we have some people already on. I see Matt's joined us. Hi, Matt. Thanks for coming on board with us today. And Tessa, nice to see you. I'm going to give just a couple seconds here for people to join the broadcast. And if you didn't know too, we're starting to live stream to YouTube now. So for those folks out there who don't use Facebook, starting now, we'll be live streaming to Facebook and YouTube simultaneously. Hi, Priscilla. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. We're giving folks just a minute or two to get on board before we start our interview. We're at our weekly Monday afternoon In the Cellar with Ken Hardcastle, winemaker at Hermit Woods Winery in Deli. While I'm waiting for everybody to get on board, I will let those who just joined know that there's a little bit of a change of plans today. Ken and Chuck and I had all planned to be here together to interview Merike Youngs, one of our fine employees at Hermit Woods Winery. Well, Chuck and Ken had a little mishap on the slopes today, and Chuck's currently in the doctor's office. Don't worry, he's fine. He's going to live, but he might have maybe broken a rib or something. We're not sure. We're hoping not. But anyway, Ken is he's joining us today from his car in the parking lot at the medical place where Chuck is visiting. So you'll see Ken momentarily. So we got Marianne joining us. So good. We got a nice group of people here. So let me get started. Let me turn off the banner here. All right. And I'm going to start just by introducing you, giving you a little bit of background. Merike has worked for us now for about a year and a half, and she started as an associate at the winery doing tastings and got her hands into all aspects of our operation. But she's grown with us in the last year and a half and taken on more roles and more responsibility, and we've really appreciated having her on our team to help out with so many of the things that make things work for you folks and make the experience a positive one for everybody. And so I'm really pleased to give Merike the spotlight a little bit today and allow you to learn a little bit more about who she is and where she comes from and what her background is. So I'm going to start by just letting you know she's born in Concord and grew up in the Pennacook and Webster area of New Hampshire. So she's a real New Hampshire native. And she went on from high school to get a degree in the classics and minored in philosophy and archaeology at St. Anselm College. After graduating, though, she went off into the woods for a few years and spent some time up in the high mountains of the Whites. And this is something that's near and dear to my heart. I've spent many hours in the high mountains of the Whites and have really enjoyed my experience there. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about Merike's time up there. She worked for the AMC and the Randolph Mountain Club. So we'll probably hear some more about that. But I don't want to take up any more time doing the talking myself. I want to bring Merike into the conversation here and let her speak for herself. So let me bring her up. Hi, Merike.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks
Happy
for
to be
joining
here.
us. Huh?
Glad to be here.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you for agreeing to do this interview with us today. And I'll bring Ken in too. Hi, Ken.
Hi, everybody. Good
to see you. Before I go any further, I just want to go a couple things before I start my interview. I want to let everybody know that that if you are joining us today, please offer some comments if you have any, or questions. If you want to ask Merike a specific question, do so, and we'll get our answers directly. And like us, share the post, if you will, with your friends, so more people can join us, and hit the like button, and again make comments, and we'll keep you as part of the conversation today. So, okay, let's get started. Merike, so I just start out with tell us a little bit about the early years when your childhood. You grew up in central New Hampshire. Tell us about that.
Yes, like you mentioned, I was born in Concord, grew up in Pennacook, and then we moved out in high school. We moved out to a big old farmhouse kind of in the middle of nowhere, which at the time was a big adjustment because I went from about a 5-minute walk to school to about a 25-minute drive, which was definitely a change, but it was a gorgeous spot, nice views of Mount Kearsarge and a nice big old house. So that was really fun for my parents. And I mean, we'll probably get to this a little later, but the land that came with that house included an orchard with some blackberry vines and apple trees and old pear trees and things, which made my dad start brewing his own hard cider and fruit wines. So I think some of my inspiration came from that, which is pretty fun. I've got 2 older sisters. They both live in Maine now. The oldest is in Portland. She works for the city doing GIS mapping. And then my other sister, Nora, is a professor of math up at Colby College. And I don't know what else.
That's all right.
I guess in high school, especially, I was definitely your sort of typical overachiever type. I played piano and French horn, and so I was in several groups through that. And then I sang in the chorus, and I did some theater. I ran cross country and track, so I was doing a sport all 3 seasons, and yeah, very involved with everything all the time.
Very active.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So through all of this, either elementary or high school, some kids say, I want to be a fireman when I grow up. Some kids say they want to be a nurse, or they want to be a construction worker. Did you have one of those days where you said, I want to be this when I grow up?
I had a few. I know I wanted to be a teacher at one point. I wanted to be a librarian. Specifically, I think at one point I said a middle school librarian, because the type of kids that are actually spending time in the library in middle school tend to be gems, I thought. Sort of the nerdy, quiet types that I would have enjoyed working with. And I remember wanting to own a cafe at one point, thinking that would be pretty cool, but also recognizing that I didn't really want to run a business. I just wanted to cook and feed people. And then there was a point, I think it was probably in middle school, where I went and did a wine tasting with my mom and decided that I wanted to work at a vineyard when I grew up. So wow. That was on the list from a very early age.
Well, you actually ticked off 2 things. You're very, very involved and an integral part of our Deli experience. So you don't necessarily have to own it or run the show, but you are very much a part of everyday operation there in the Deli. So that's exciting. You filled that goal, and here you are working in a winery. That's kind of cool. I didn't realize that you ticked.
I didn't know that either. When you were just in middle school, and you went to a winery. I take it you weren't sampling the wines at that time, but what struck you of that experience that made you think, okay, I want to get involved with the winery?
It was a beautiful setting. So this was at I know Sharp Hill down in Connecticut, which I
Been
think
there.
we'd been to since. I actually don't think I've been there of age yet. But the tasting that we did, it was in this really nice like brick courtyard with ivy, and it was a lovely summer day. And I remember the guy that did the tasting was just really fun and engaging. And I don't remember, the specifics about the wine that he talked about, but it just seemed like a cool place. And they had a really nice restaurant that was attached that we ate lunch at with delicious food. And I think even at that lunch, I think I was asking the waitress about working there. And I think they talked about how they had maybe summer interns or something like that. So I remember sort of pocketing that for future, thinking that it would be a fun job to have at some point.
Oh, that's great. That's good. It's a really fun opportunity. Not only do our customers and guests get to learn more about you, we get to learn more about
Yeah.
you. Learning all kinds of new things I didn't know. So that's great. Oh, it looks like Ken went dark on us. Oh, there he is. All right.
Sorry,
So
I'm back. I just heard from Chuck. He does not have a broken rib.
oh,
Yay!
good. Excellent news.
Maybe just a very, very bruised rib, which I'm sure isn't very comfortable either.
So let me ask you, you were very active. You got involved with a lot of different things in high school. Do you feel like a lot of those things are affecting your day-to-day life today? Do you draw on those experiences today from high school specifically?
I think for sure. I mean, granted, I met a lot of my best friends doing those things. So that was part of it. Knowing how to balance time, I'm sure was a valuable skill that I learned early on there. And yeah, just sort of knowing to pursue what I love was something I'm certainly thankful for, that my parents encouraged me to do all of these things. And, I didn't just have to get a job and work all through high school, which I know is also a very valuable experience and would have been good too. But this way I was able to do a lot of different things instead of, spending my time just at a job. So I got to experience lots of fun things. I do remember having a hard time when I got to college, recognizing that I could not continue to do all of those things. Because, just the structure of high school allowed for me to do a little bit of everything and still somehow have the time for it. But when I got to college, I think I sort of had to choose, which was too bad. So I haven't played French horn for years. I still will play piano a little bit when I go home, but not so much. And I was a little bit involved in theater in college as well, but mostly just stuck with the running once I got to college. So that was too bad. And I miss doing some of those other things, and hope that sometime once if I get into a settled life and feel like I have the free time, I'd love to try and pick up French horn again and join a community band or something. Would be a fun side hobby to take up again.
That leads me to the comment on the screen there. If you look down below, Matt wants to know if you'll be performing when we get the upstairs open.
I would say unlikely. We'll see. I've never been much of a performer, which has changed a little bit in recent years. It feels sometimes like when we're giving tastings, that's a little bit of a performance. And so my public speaking has definitely improved in recent years from doing things like that or some of my jobs up north. But early on in high school, I didn't even want to practice when my parents were home, and only did a recital, I think, twice, maybe a few more times than that. I definitely was I liked being in the background much more. And even, I said I was involved with theater, but I was never on stage. I did lighting, I did set design, I did microphones or prop work, things like that. I'm much more of a behind the scenes type.
Well, I've seen you in action at the winery and behind the tasting bar, and I think you might be missing something here. I think you do have a set of skills in that area. You do a great job. It's really great to see the relationship that you develop with folks at the bar, and you're very calm and relaxed about it. So I think you got more skills there than you give yourself credit for.
That's for sure. You definitely are very outspoken and gregarious, and seem to really be comfortable greeting people and doing everything at the tasting room. I never would have guessed that you were sort of shy, if you will.
I think it changed. It changed at some point after college when I was working up north. I think when I had to like get up in front of guests at a hut and give the after dinner spiel about rules and plans for the next day and things like that, is when I sort of got forced into doing public speaking. And I think it was maybe the transition from being forced to give a persuasive speech in high school English class to talking about something I actually cared about and loved. And I think that helped make that switch.
That makes a big difference, I have
Yeah.
to tell you. So let's talk about college. When you graduated from high school, you went off to Iowa. What brought you to Iowa? Why did you choose?
I did. So I applied to this. So this was Luther College is the school that I was at. And I will be honest, I applied to there as a safety school to make my mom happy. It was where she went to college. It's where her brother went and her sister and her mom and her uncle and cousins and grandpa and everybody. My grandma was a secretary there for decades. So it was definitely the legacy school. And so I didn't really have that much of an interest in going out to Iowa, but applied just sort of to check that box, make my mom think I was considering it. But in the end, I probably didn't apply to as many schools as I should have. So I did get into some and waitlisted at some, but didn't get financial aid very much. And so it meant I could have stayed in New England and gone to probably Smith College and ended up in large piles of debt, or I could go out to Iowa. So I went out to Iowa. And I've found sort of in retrospect, the school is a fantastic school. But I had trouble getting over the fact that I didn't have much of a choice in going there. And I think I sort of set myself up to be homesick. And so I ended up transferring back home to New Hampshire to St. Anselm College, also a great school. But I definitely wonder sometimes what would have happened if I had sort of stuck it out and stayed there.
How long were you there for?
1 year, just my freshman year.
Okay. Great. So
Hey, I hate to interrupt. All sounds very interesting, and I look forward to watching it later on the video recording of it. But Chuck is just coming out, and I'm sure he's going to want to try to get home or off to get some painkillers, whatever he needs. So so please carry on. I will look forward to hearing from it. Have a great time.
Thanks, Ken.
I can
We wish
give our best to Chuck. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So I'm just going to take a second, Merike. We're going to check in with the comments, see who's joined us, and say hello to a couple people. Jana Dyer has joined us.
So Jana, Tessa was one of the first people to join us. Tessa is my best friend since second grade, still my closest friend today, and Jana is her mom. So I'm happy that they're joining us today.
Thanks for joining us. Yes, and Gary's joined us. Good to see you, Gary.
Our regulars.
Yes, and again, if anybody has any questions for Merike, as Matt did, just type your question, and we will get to it live right now today. So I'm going to go back to my interview here, and I'm going to ask you your next question. So when you got back to New Hampshire and you got into St. Anselm College, you studied the classics. You had a minor in archaeology and in philosophy. So maybe you thought you narrowed things down when you left high school, but it sounds like you made lots of choices in college to diversify. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so I remember in high school when I was applying to colleges and thinking about what I might want to major in, that was when I first would start seeing classics on the list and didn't know what it was at first until, I sort of did my research, found out what it was, and then realized that the summer between my junior and senior years, I did the summer program at Phillips Exeter Academy for high school students. And the three classes I took were Latin, a history of ancient Greece, and a philosophy course. And I realized that was essentially, I had signed up for a summer of classics study. So I figured, well, if I enjoy that, then maybe I should consider that in college. And I did have a great summer. I loved the subjects that I was learning about. And so I didn't officially declare that major when I first started, but when I transferred to St. A's, at that point, I knew that that was what I was interested in. And so when you go to different schools, have sort of a slightly different approach to what exactly classics is. Generally, it's the study of ancient Greece and Rome, the language, culture, history, mythology, all of that. At St. A's, it was mostly the language was the actual requirement. So I took Latin every single semester of college, and I took Greek for 4 semesters. But it's just very strongly encouraged that you also take the history and the archaeology, the ancient philosophy, the mythology. So I found I was taking a lot of those classes anyway, just sort of to round out my major. And so it ended up being pretty easy to have that overlap to get the minors in philosophy and archaeology as well as the major in classics. I was technically the only classics major to graduate my year at St. A's. It's a pretty small school, about 400 something in my graduating class, but I was technically the only classics major.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
We just had a comment from Janice. She says she visited us a few weeks ago and really appreciated that you took some time to take her into the cellar for a tour.
Oh, yes, I remember. Nice to see you again, Janice. Glad you could join us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And I just want to let everybody else know out there, that's always the case. If you visit us at the winery and we have the time, either Ken or I or any of our team, we're always excited to share what we're doing. So just ask, and we'll give you the inside scoop.
I'm going to take a minute. I think my light is fading. I'm going to try turning on my lamp again and see if that makes the lighting a little better for a moment.
That's fine. I'll take over here for a second while you get your lighting fixed. So again, if you're just joining us, we're here with Merike Youngs, and if you've been in our winery, you've probably met her. She's been with us for about 1.5 years. She started just as a part-time associate in 2019 in the summer, and has excelled with us. She's done all kinds of things. She's got her fingers in just about every aspect of the operation, from making the wine through every part of being in the tasting room. And she pinch hit in the deli for a month or two when we were when Nate, our former chef, left, and did an outstanding job and continues to have a great role in the deli. So we thought we'd give her the spotlight today, and we're going to spend the rest of the hour chatting with Merike. If you have questions or comments, please share them, and we'll respond to them on air as we can. And I also wanted to let you know, for those of you who weren't here in the beginning, Ken and Chuck would normally be here with me today. This is in fact in the cellar with Ken Hardcastle, but unfortunately Ken and Chuck went skiing today, and Chuck had a pretty bad pileup in the snow and banged himself up pretty good. The good news is he and Ken went to the doctors, and Ken just reported that he's fine and he didn't break anything, and he's just going to be bruised up for a little bit. So that's why they're not here with us today. So it's just me and Merike, and I'm going to continue on with my interview here. So that's why you got into classics. But tell us a little bit about archaeology and philosophy. You had those as minors. What were you thinking about when you chose those 2 minors?
At the time, honestly, it was just interesting. I'm sorry, my background's gotten kind of fuzzy, but I'm lit. It was mostly just I was interested. At the time, I wasn't really thinking, what am I going to do with this? Which I don't mind at all. I think that's sort of, I don't know, the point of a liberal arts education is you're not necessarily learning what you're learning to use that specific information. You're more, I don't know, you're learning how to learn, or being taught how to think, in a way, is what I remember my dad always joking about. So it was just what I was interested in. I did also really love the mythology, was one of my favorite areas. And I did get to go on a couple of digs while I was in college. So St. A's, like I said, I was the only classics major in my year. We had a very small department, but it was a really high quality department. And my advisor, who was the head of the department, was a fantastic professor. And we would go every summer. We had a program in Orvieto, Italy, that we would take a group of students to, it would be mostly students from St. Anselm, mostly classics majors, but not completely. And then some students from other places in the US that would join us there as well. So I got to do 2 6-week summer programs, digging in Italy, which was a fantastic experience, sort of my study abroad. So that was excellent. And yeah, it was interesting. I loved learning about the ancient histories and how people were living at that time and what we could learn from what we would dig up and how that related especially to the literature and how you sort of could connect all those dots of the stories and the history and the physical places that we still had.
That's great. I actually, I had a similar experience. I went to California Institute of the Arts, and I really speak about my education as exactly as you did. I really learned how to learn. I learned how to think creatively and how to be critical. And so, I think a similar kind of track in terms of the way I took college or what college meant for me. So I can relate to that experience. Curious, did you have an opportunity to visit wineries while you were touring in Italy?
I did. I remember, yeah. So I think that I was trying to think about this going into this interview. I think the first real wine tasting that I ever did where I could actually drink was in Italy. And I definitely remember the man there, his wonderful Italian accent talking about his wine and comparing 2 different reds and how one of them was a more, basic everyday red where this other one was deep and dark like the ocean, I think was how he was describing it. And I remember buying, I think, that deep, dark, ocean deep bottle and bringing it home to enjoy with my family at Christmas. Because he talked about how it's much more of a formal occasion wine. And then I still mark as the best day of my life was going to a farm in the area, which is sort of a restaurant, sort of a winery, but really it was an old lady. Her name was Zia Graziella, or Aunt Graziella, and you could call her and say, okay, we're going to come on Sunday. We've got 15 people, and she would give you an incredible multi-course meal, all cooked there. She took us out back afterwards and showed us the siblings of the animals that we had just eaten. She served us, multiple types of her own wine that, she had made right there. It was one of those hours and hours long meals that probably ate more and drank more than I ever had in my life. But because it was so spread out, we were certainly in very good spirits as we left, but not perhaps dangerously so. But it was just an incredible, incredible experience of food and wine.
That's great. Those memories, those kinds of experiences stick with you forever. And we, as many of you know, Ken and I and Chuck have had a chance to do quite a bit of traveling, and we too have come across these really unique and special places just like that, and you'll remember them forever. It's also interestingly, when I was traveling, when I was younger, when I was your age, college age, and maybe a little older, I that's when I learned about wine tasting and visited lots of wineries. And when we opened Hermit Woods, one of the things that we strived for was that very experience. The wineries, there's a handful of wineries that I visited, like you just described when I was younger, that I can describe every detail of those experiences. I can describe the tasting bar and the person who did the presentation and what the place looked like and what the wine was like in great detail. And it's because the experience was so profound for me that it stuck in my head. And it sounds like that's the experience you had in Italy. And that's what we're trying to do at Hermit Woods. We want, for everybody who walks through that door, we want you to feel something special and to remember that experience like Merike just described, or like I remembered my experiences from California. So before I go to the next question, Janice had another comment. She wanted to talk about how amazing the Dolgo was and the Lake House White, and mentioned that a blue, which was a deep blue reserve, which was a gift, was received very well for her friend. So again, thank you, Janice, for that comment. And Matt, Lynn made the comment that Lynn and I would echo that that the trip to the answering of their questions and the trip to the cellar was a good experience for them as well. So thank you for those comments, and thanks, Merike, for making guests feel at home at our winery. So I'm going to go on to the next question. So let's see.
I've cracked a can. I've got my Winnie Rosé here. I'm surprised that you don't have anything. I feel like it's traditional for a Monday to have something. So I've got a can of rosé that I'm going to enjoy while we finish.
Well, I'm absolutely jealous. I got so caught up in getting all this equipment. Like I said at the beginning, I got some new toys here that I have to learn how to use. So I got so caught up in all the new toys. I forgot about the wine. And I'm suffering for it. But I'm glad you're enjoying the Winnie Rosé, one of our latest canned products. So my next question for you is, after you graduated from high school, you went off into the mountains, which again, you took another turn. You pursued a new direction. Tell us about that. What brought you there?
Yeah. So, like I sort of said, I was pursuing the classics because it was what I was interested in, not thinking too much about where I would go with it. I still love that area of study. I could maybe see myself still in sort of an academic life. But for the most part, if you're going to do anything with classics, you need to go to grad school. And then you end up being a professor somewhere, maybe teaching Latin at a private high school, since most public schools don't offer that anymore. Or a lot of people actually that are classics majors go on to med school or law school. But I think at the time, as good of a student as I always was, as much as I loved the area study, I think I wasn't really that thrilled about the idea of going on to grad school at that time. Didn't really know what specifically within classics I would want to focus on. And so I did, I went through the motions. I applied to a bunch of places. I'm pretty sure they could tell that my heart wasn't in it because I had no luck receiving funding anywhere. And so then, I went to the woods, and that was inspired by a good friend of mine from the cross-country team at St. A's that had spent the summer before working on the trail crew for the Randolph Mountain Club. And I had been up to visit her that summer, and I got to do a day of work with her crew. And then she took me to the sort of famous in the White Mountain seasonal crew weekly Camp Dodge barbecue, which is, a whole bunch of the seasonal folks from all over that are free on a Friday night will go to Camp Dodge for a big weekend barbecue. And I got to go out to, their sort of cabin in the woods for a bonfire, and just sort of got a little bit of everything of what it was like to live and work up in that area, and fell in love that weekend for sure. And decided, that I would definitely be applying for the next summer. Though I remember it was difficult when I did actually go to apply because I had very little experience. I'd grown up hiking a bit, but not, I hadn't really done trail work before. I didn't have experience leading crews of kids doing anything. I, hadn't worked at a summer camp before. But I made some good connections. I knew some people that knew some people that knew some people. And I sort of got shuffled around the application process from some very, very kind people up there that, even though, some of them, they maybe couldn't use me where they were hiring for, but I guess saw something in me that they liked. So they would pass me on to someone that was still hiring. And so my first summer up there, I worked for the Appalachian Mountain Club at Camp Dodge, which is the base camp for all the volunteer trail crews up in the Whites. And I was leading a crew of local high schoolers that are in the Jobs for America's Graduates program, which is a dropout prevention program, I think would probably be the best descriptor. But it works with at-risk youth and sort of general low-income areas. I know the high school in Merritt, I think Interlakes, I know has the program. My high school, Merrick Valley, had the program. I worked with kids from Berlin High School and Woodsville High School, and the program helps them find a summer job. And so we had this paid crew of high schoolers that were doing trail work, and I was their crew leader, despite having never done trail work much before. But I had some good training and did that. So I led that crew for 2 summers and sort of hopped around doing a lot of other things in between, because that's sort of the nature of seasonal work up there, is that you're only doing each job for 2 to 3 months generally. Though some positions I held were for as long as 6 or 7, maybe. But you're kind of constantly switching around. So I was all over the place up there. I led the trail crews. I was on the professional trail crew one fall for the Appalachian Mountain Club. I worked up at the main lodges, the sort of lodges that you have to ski into in the winter up near Moosehead Lake in Maine. Have you been up to those, Bob?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, so I was on the staff there for 2 winters, one at Little Lyford, one at Gorman Chairback.
Stayed at both of those.
Yes, a lot of different things. I did do a couple of seasons in the huts, which tends to be what people know most. The sort of most well-known facet of the Appalachian Mountain Club is probably those White Mountain huts. So I did do one full-service season at Carter in the fall, and I was also a caretaker at a couple of those huts in the sort of shoulder seasons. I did a fall at Carter, and I did a spring at Lonesome Lake, which is the lovely background that we have here. And that was great. I was at Camp Dodge every summer, which was definitely sort of the most special place to me. So like I said, I led crews there for 2 years. Then I was support staff, and then I spent 2 years as the facility coordinator, so kind of running the camp, which meant doing some cooking and lots of organizing and supervising and all sorts.
So now I understand why you do so well with us here at the winery. As you know, every day at the winery, things seem to take new turns, and especially in 2020, we had to, as they say, pivot many different times to come up with new ways to solve problems and do things. And you have just such a wealth of experience coming from all of these diverse areas between your education and all of the things that you got involved with. I mean, I can see lots of the activities you just described in the White Mountains lending themselves directly to the day-to-day activities of Hermit Woods. It's why I think you've excelled with us so well. It's really wonderful. Glad we're taking the time to get to know you a little better. As much time as we spend with each other in the winery, we're learning so much. So let's talk a little bit about your experience. Actually, before I do that, you spent a few years in the Whites. Is there a particular time or a particular experience up in the mountains that was really profound to you or really special that you could share?
I know there are 2 things. I think one would be mentioning, like I said, Camp Dodge was sort of the place that sort of holds the most special place to me, partly just because while I was, yes, hopping around and going to different places, I was at Dodge every single summer. I stayed there longer than most staff tend to. I think a lot of these summer jobs, you do it for a couple of years in college and then go on to other things. So we don't have a big retention rate, which is very understandable given the nature of the work. But I did do, 5 summers at Dodge. And just the community there, I really loved, and I loved sort of getting to know new people every year, but also having good friends that would come back and people that would visit from other facilities always sort of felt welcomed there. And it's just a very fun and welcoming place. And you're still, you're kind of living in the woods. It is a base camp, you can drive to it, but all the staff live in those canvas sort of army style tents. So you're sort of outside and inside at the same time. And it's just a really wonderful place that I love. I think the other would be a job that we hadn't touched on yet, which is I did spend 2 winters as one of the caretakers for the Randolph Mountain Club up at Gray Knob Cabin, which I know you've also visited. And so there, especially in winter, it's an intense job. You have a lot of responsibility. You're very isolated. You have to be very independent. And going into it, I was certainly a little nervous since I didn't have, again, a lot of experience with winter hiking. I still haven't really done any winter camping. And so it was a challenge being up there. And I think it was definitely a good experience for me. It definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone a lot. I I'm kind of sad that I cannot claim to have done a full week stint without seeing a single person, but I came very close several times. There were definitely weeks where there were only a few people that would pass through. So you learn how to be alone a lot. But what I did love the most about that type of job was actually the balance of spending a lot of time alone, but then in the evenings or on the weekends, there would be plenty of people. They would be busy. It would be kind of hectic. You got to meet and chat with all sorts of wonderful, fun people. So those busy weekends were pretty great, but also, the quieter midweek times when there might just be one guest in the evening, you could actually really sit down and get to know them a little more. And I think one of the important things for me was finding sort of my own style of caretaking. There were lots of past alumni caretakers that I could chat with. I had a co-caretaker both years for support, and my supervisor, of course. But everybody sort of has their own style and their own way of doing things, their own routines that they get into. And I think finding my own way to do it and not necessarily just, doing what other people said I should do was good for me, I think.
The best part of your answer was people. It seemed like what, I was expecting to hear more. You did touch on this, but more about something about the mountains or the experience of the mountains. And you did, like I said, you touched on that. That is the Randolph Mountain Club is an amazing place. If you haven't been there, highly recommend you visit. It's really, really beautiful. But I love the fact that what you took away from most of your experiences was the wonderful people and the experiences related to those people that you had over the years. And again, I think that lends another reason it lends your skills to what you're doing today, because we're in front of people every day, and it's what I love about what makes Hermit Woods special for me. It's what I love about what I do every day, and it seems like you share in that as well. So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to bring us back from the mountains now. You finally, and I guess it was 2019. You came back and what did you see an ad for Hermit Woods in the paper somewhere? What happened?
I did. So I was sort of, I guess I was nearing the end of seasonal work. I had been doing it then for about a little, like 5 to 6 years, and was starting to sort of have, I was not feeling too old, but getting tired of switching so often. I would have, it would be nice to do a job that lasted. And there are very few year-round opportunities working with the AMC. I definitely was keeping my eye out for something that I could see myself in, but there are very few jobs and, even fewer times where they would actually open up. And if they did open up, it wasn't necessarily one that I could see myself doing. I also had been living in Laconia while I was working up for my second winter with the Randolph Mountain Club. I had moved in with my boyfriend who has a house here in Laconia. So I was hoping to be a little further south than the White Mountains more often. So I was just frantically job searching all that summer. I was definitely looking at staying in the conservation industry, if you could call it an industry. It doesn't seem like quite the right word for conservation, but I was applying to some land trusts, but again, there were very few positions. Considered going to a school, or considered going back to school. Was definitely frustrated at some of the job availability and requirements that with things like the minimum wage in New Hampshire. Just that I did do a little bit as a substitute teacher, but was frustrated that a job like that requires a college degree, you would make about $10 an hour, and you could also make more like $15 an hour if you were a dishwasher at a chain restaurant. And I was frustrated with those sorts of discrepancies, I guess. But really was kind of open to anything. And then Hermit Woods popped up, and I was thrilled. I had been there in the spring before, so April 2019. I came and did a tasting for my birthday. with my boyfriend that day. We went to Hermit Woods, and then we went over and did a tasting at Gilmanton Winery as well. And it happened to be the spring club release day, so it was extra busy, extra fun. They had the extra food out for the tastings. I'm pretty sure Brittany was our tasting guide that day. And of course, Brittany was excellent. I'm sure some of the people watching also remember Brittany. She was fantastic. And we actually signed up to be club members that day. And so did know Hermit Woods. I hadn't been back since that day, but was thrilled. It reawakened the dream I had from being a teenager of like, oh wow, I could actually work at a winery. That would be fun. So I applied, and we had a great interview. I remember we spent most of the interview talking about working up north and hiking and things like that.
Well, like I said, you struck a chord with me. You touched my interest in a number of ways. Your experience is really wonderful. It's great. We share a lot in common that way. So I think that very much did help bring you on board our team, and we're glad that you found us. So thank you. And before I go on, I'm going to acknowledge a couple comments and questions that are being made. Priscilla wanted to talk about the possibility of maybe having a Hermit Woods getaway, maybe a 2-night hut trip. That would be a lot of fun. Matt referred to it as the Hermit Woods Outing Club. That's not a name I actually gave it myself, but what he's referring to is that pre-COVID, right before COVID, Hermit Woods was actively, many of you know, Ken and Chuck and I went to South Africa in January of last year. And we came back so excited, so thrilled with all of the people and experiences that we had, that we wanted to give that opportunity to our club members. So we were planning to create a group trip where we were going to provide an opportunity for 20 or 30 of us to join Ken and Chuck and I to go back to South Africa in 2021. Actually, it would have been right now. So we still have that as a dream, and as soon as COVID is not a variable and we can travel again, we're going to begin planning that. So for all of you out there who have an interest in traveling with us, that's something we're really excited about. And it won't necessarily just be South Africa. Maybe it'll be a hut trip, but it'll definitely involve wine. That's one thing I can guarantee. But yes, the Hermit Woods Outing Club will be a thing at some point in the future, if I have any say about it. So
that sounds good. The cans would fit in a backpack pretty well. A little more hiking efficient than bottles, I would say.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you brought that up. They're also great for boaters, and so that's one of the reasons we created the cans, was for that very reason. So let's move on to my next question, and let's see. So you landed at Hermit Woods. So let me ask you. So I think the answer is obvious. I think you've already really answered this. But how have you, connected the dots between your experience at Hermit Woods and all of the things that you were involved with before you landed here? Do you find yourself doing that? Do you find that the set of skills that you developed in your life in high school and college and your experience in the mountains, do you find that set of skills being used every day, or how do you feel about it?
Some of it. I think you're right. I think it's the people that I love the most. I love getting those chances to share our story, but also learning other people's stories, sort of what brought them here, their other experiences with wine, how Hermit Woods might be similar or different. Usually it's different, but not in a bad way. It's always a very good sort of different. Yeah, I think it's mostly the people and how I learned, though it was definitely a change. I mean, I was always, I don't know, friendly and bubbly early on, but being able to comfortably chat with strangers and have that sort of little bit of performance aspect to it was definitely something that came from working in the huts and as a caretaker. So yeah, getting the people, I think, is most of it.
The people. I love it. That's fantastic. That's again, that's very much what it's about for me. It's about the people. It wouldn't mean anything. All of this wouldn't mean anything. All the wine, it wouldn't mean. It'd be enjoyable to drink, but as a life's activities, if you took the people out of the equation, I just don't know that I have the same interest. I mean, every day we get to meet some new and interesting and exciting, hear some exciting stories, and we meet people from around the world. There's people, especially in the fall, we get people from all over the world traveling in the New England area. It's something that has really challenged me in 2020. It's something I so miss. We used to see so many more people from so many more places, and now because of COVID, we've had to actually be closed for periods of time, as we are now, and I'm missing all the people. So I can't wait till we get past this pandemic and we can start having more of those experience up close and without masks someday. So my next question for you, Merike, is with all of your background and experience, what are some of the things, give me one or two things that make you, and you already said people, so outside of your interactions with people, what are some of the things that get you the most excited about on any given day at the winery?
I think learning about the wine has been fantastic. Like I said, yeah, I've been to a few other tastings at other wineries, but actually my experience with non-Hermit Woods wine is actually pretty limited still. But learning about the process, learning about how to taste wine and how to get those different notes, I've loved that. Also, I think the food aspect, or the food side of things, we mentioned early on that, one of my aspirations as a kid was to open up a restaurant or cafe or something. And I love to feed people. I love, having people over for dinner at home. I've loved building charcuterie boards also since I was a kid. I don't know if I remember ever telling you this, but growing up, every week we had our Sunday night movie night, and we would make a charcuterie board as dinner that night. And I loved getting to put that together every week. And so designing those sorts of boards and playing with different pairings, even, again, as a kid, I would play with pairings, eating a bite of broccoli with aged cheddar, or, a grape with a different type of cheese, and coming up with those pairings has always been fun for me, and being able to share those. So I love that I'm still involved with things at the deli and getting to help Deborah come up with new boards and arrange things in a pretty way and a delicious way. And especially, how it relates to the wine is a lot of fun.
That's great. We appreciate that as well. You have come up with some really creative and interesting ideas, so it's good. I also noticed while you were answering that question, we had another guest join us briefly as they passed behind you. Who
yes, there are actually there are two guests. They're both here with me. We can meet them. So this is Heiser, one of my lovely kitties. He's very friendly and very malleable is a good word for him. He is quite willing to be picked up and turned around in any way. He's very cute.
Great. As everybody knows, we have...
And then we've also got Bonnie here, who is a little less enjoying of being picked up, but she's all right. But they're both very personable, snuggly kitties that are wonderful parts of our family here.
That's great. Reminds me, and probably a lot of people, of Pinot and Noir, who were winery cats for about 6 months. They're here too, but much more shy than your two kitties. Very much not likely to come join us for our broadcast today. So, but if you're wondering, Pinot and Noir are doing exceptionally well. Two of the best cats I think I've ever owned, and we really enjoy them every day. So, so back to you, Merike. So tell us. Let's see. It was good response. Again, I'm learning something new, lots of new things about your experience with us, and it's great to it's great to see the things that you've sort of focused in on or highlighted on. I think it really shines through. So I'm going to get to my next question here. So you've been with us now for about 1.5 years, and Have you come up with a favorite wine?
Well, I will copy your answer that, my favorite wine is whatever I'm drinking at the time. And it's true because it depends so much on the occasion and the time and what I'm eating at the same time and all of that. But my favorite Hermit Woods wine, I would say probably Red Scare, I think as a product, it's one of the highest quality, still super unique and absolutely delicious. I think it's just an amazing, amazing wine. So Red Scare is definitely top of the list for me. But again, I wouldn't want Red Scare all the time. So my other answer is the cans of cranberry cider. I will never say no to a can of cranberry cider. It's especially in the can, it's good out of the bottle, but a can of that all the time. It's so delicious.
Excellent. Chelsea frames the question in another way. Aside from your favorites, what wine or cider do you sell the most?
That is an interesting question. I think it might be the Winnie Rosé, because that one, it's a good one because it's sort of that semi-dry. So if somebody likes a sweeter wine, Winnie Rosé might be just sweet enough for them. But if you don't like a sweet wine, it's not like this is a very, very sweet rosé. I love that the apples that go into it are from Apple Hill Farm, which is the farm that I grew up picking at every year. I love that it's called Winnie Rosé. So when people come in looking for a gift, I think that bottle is something I recommend a lot, just because it says Winnipesaukee on it. So it makes a very good from New Hampshire gift. And I think it's a good representation of what we do. So I think that tends to be one of my go-tos as a recommendation for people. It's the Winnie Rosé.
Great, thank you. And Priscilla wanted to point out that your cats remind her of Bernie's sweater and Bernie's mittens. We've seen an awful lot of Bernie these days, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've seen a single meme or a meme go so viral as that one.
No.
Might have broken an all-time record.
I would say so.
Yeah.
It would, yeah, but Bonnie does quite match his mittens very well.
So, again, while you're out there, if you have questions, we're coming near to the end of our interview with Merike. So if you have specific questions for Merike that you'd like to know about her or her relationship to the winery, please ask them in the comment section, and we will do our best to answer them before we get off the program here. Let me ask you about your favorite wine or winery or wine region, if you have one, outside of Hermit Woods.
I don't have much of one yet. Again, yeah, the majority of my wine experience has been Hermit Woods, at least in terms of serious wine tasting or really paying attention to what I was drinking instead of just, oh yeah, I'm going to have some wine tonight. There are a few that I know. I remember actually the winery that I was first inspired by, they have a wine called Ballet of Angels that partly the bottle is just very beautiful. It has a nice like Renaissance painting of some cherubs on it. And that I remember being one of the first wines that I enjoyed. Now it's far too sweet for me. But I think they're just a few individuals. I know I like Vino Verde, sort of the Portuguese white wine that's sort of a little bit lighter, very crisp, a little tart. And there's also a Whitehaven Sauvignon Blanc is another bottle that I get sometimes, or my mom will get sometimes, that I really enjoy. But it is something that I want to do more of, is doing some wine tastings of actual grape wines and learning more about what I like there. I know I don't love super sweet wine unless it's sort of for day drinking on a beach in the summer. Like sort of drier, but not too dry, I guess. But yeah, I have a long way to go for grape wine.
Well, you have many years to fulfill that opportunity, and that's a great attitude. And we say that a lot at the winery. We really enjoy Hermit Woods wine, and we enjoy sharing it with you. But the world of wine is huge, and we also tell everybody to venture forth, visit other wineries, and here in New Hampshire and abroad, and and fill your experience up with other opportunities, because there's just so much to learn. You could study wine your entire life and you would still have something new to learn. It's really, that's what's another one of the things that's really amazing about this choice of profession for me, is just so much to learn, so many opportunities. And it seems like that again is a corollary with you. You've been somebody who's seeking opportunities, it seems, all your life to learn new things. And boy, if this one vein doesn't give you those opportunities, I don't know what would.
Yeah, especially because it's so hard, that enjoying wine often means traveling and enjoying good food along with it, and getting together with people and laughing and sharing good times. They tend to go hand in hand.
Yes, back to the people. I love it. So I asked this question of everybody who I do an interview with through this program. And so I'm going to ask you, have you figured out what you want to be when you grow up?
No. I have not. I don't know. I love where I am right now. I do think I want to stay in New Hampshire, or in New England anyway. Though I feel like it would be good for me maybe to live somewhere very different for a while as well. But I love New Hampshire. I want to stay here, I think. But I don't know. Yeah, I think there could be other paths for me in the future, but I haven't found them yet. I've, I guess, fulfilled some of the dreams that I had as a child. Not all of them. Though I did do some substitute teaching and found that I didn't particularly enjoy being a regular teacher at a school. So I can check that box and move on from there. Though I still think I could maybe work at a private school, just more in sort of administration or something like that. But
Well,
I don't know.
You a couple things. You have a home with us for as long as you like, and don't worry about trying to figure that out too quickly. It took till my late 40s before I figured out what I wanted to be when I grew up, and quite honestly, I just hope I don't grow up, because
exactly,
having fun on the journey. So
and I love that here at Hermit Woods things are changing. We've got the upstairs coming. I know you have big dreams for projects in the future. So I like that, while I might be on this path here, it could go in all sorts of different directions, even staying with Hermit Woods. And that's exciting to me. Especially I was nervous starting a sort of a regular job back in fall of 2019, and wondering if I would burn out in, being at the same place for more than a few months. But we're going on a year and a half and I'm not tired yet. So
excellent. I'm glad to hear it. We don't want to see you depart us anytime soon. So one last question, or actually I have two questions. One is just name one or two things that you like to do with your time when you're not working at the winery today.
Definitely things that are sort of related to what we've talking about. I love to cook. I love to cook for people, but also just for myself. And I love to visit restaurants and other wineries and craft breweries in particular. Definitely any of the New Hampshire breweries I've been to, not all of them, but most of them, and have some favorites there. I also read a lot, especially when work is closed down. I've probably read, I think, a book every 2 days since we shut down last week. I read a lot. I also play disc golf, which was a hobby that started when I started dating my boyfriend. So we play disc golf, which is another opportunity to travel to. Whenever we go traveling places, we'll always look up whatever the local breweries, wineries, and disc golf courses are. So that's always fun. But I'd say, yeah, those are the things.
Great. Thank you for sharing. We're going to wrap this up. Before I do, one last thing from you, Merike. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you think you'd like to share with everybody about who you are or what you're all about?
I did actually. I want to share. I'm not sure if my mom tuned in to listen, but I do. I feel like I can't end this without giving a shout out to my parents for the way they raised me. In that, I think growing up, just the attitudes around alcohol, that my parents drank some, but it was never to excess. My mom definitely loves wine, and drinks wine regularly, but sort of instilled in me that enjoyment of the beverage for the beverage itself and not, to get drunk. And that my dad brewed his own beer when I was a kid, and I loved helping him out. Early on, I actually remember going to the fermentation station, which was in the building that Hermit Woods is now in. I remember going there with him to get some supplies. And he stopped for a while when he was in med school, but then started up again when we moved out to Webster, brewing his own beer and also making wine and hard cider from the orchard there. He made a really delicious blackberry wine that I wish I somehow had the recipe for. Though some years it was much better than others, but some years it was very, very delicious. So definitely big thanks to my parents for those inspirations, I'd say. And I'm glad that my mom could see, and she's been to Hermit Woods several times. She loves the wine. I bring it home to her all the time, and she comes in and visits sometimes. And I wish my dad was still around to see what I was doing, because I know he would enjoy that.
Well, I'd like to thank your mom and dad as well, because they raised a great kid, and we're so glad that you found your way to us along your journey. And like I said, you have a home here as long as you want to continue it with us. So thank you very much, Merike, for taking time out of your day to visit with us and to help our guests get to know you a little bit better.
Bonnie's back.
So I'm going to bring this interview to an end. It's been just a little bit over an hour. Before I do, I want to mention a couple things. The winery is still closed. We are going to be probably about a week or so. We decided to close the winery, as many of you already know, because of a COVID scare. It turns out everything's fine. The staff person who did get COVID and got it outside of the winery is on the mend and doing much better. All of us at the winery tested negative for COVID. We're very pleased about that. It suggests that the work we're doing to try and protect ourselves from each other and and protect our guests from COVID is actually working, because the staff person worked with us for 3 days and nobody got it. So we're very pleased about that. And so we look forward to getting back open and in a way that is safe, and that you can come back and see us again soon. I will add, we were going to quarantine for 14 days, which is what we're doing. That 14 days will be coming up soon. We will be closed for a little longer than the 14 days because we're also going to take advantage of some of the construction work that needed to be done in the winery area while the third floor is being constructed. So we're going to take advantage of a few extra days here to finish up that work, so we don't have to disturb the operation again once we get back open. So stay tuned. I'm looking for early February. We're probably going to be back up and running again, and we're really excited to see everybody back at the tasting room. We're going to have a fun and exciting new season. COVID's going to be less, I hope, as we get towards summer, less of a variable in all of our lives, and maybe we'll start to see some sense of normalcy again. While we are closed, we are doing curbside. If you call our winery number, you can schedule to have a curbside pickup if you like. And we are also, our wine is available in the liquor store and other outlets around New Hampshire. And you can order it directly from our website through Vino Shipper. And again, thank you to Merike. If you do order wine from Vino Shipper, she's been a real integral part of pulling that system together for us and making sure everybody gets the right wine when you do order it. So again, thank you, Merike, for joining us today. Thank you, everybody else out there in the world who took the time to join us for this broadcast. And we'll look forward to seeing you all again on Monday next week. We'll be back with another subject. Don't ask me what yet. We're figuring that out as we go, as you've learned. But I'm getting better at putting that notice out early. So hopefully we'll be able to get that notice out to you before Monday. And we're also, like I said earlier, we're now broadcasting live to YouTube. So if you don't use Facebook and you have friends who don't use Facebook, they can tune in. From now on, we're going to be live to YouTube. So thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic evening, and we'll look forward to seeing you all soon at the winery. And if not, we'll see you on our broadcast on some future Monday. Thank you, Merike. Have a good night.
Thank you, Bob. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for joining.
All right. Bye-bye.